There's been this renaissance for markets because of the benevolence of the Fed and central banks. How's it played out in terms of your proclivity for risk?
Yeah, good morning. Actually, the market consensus has moved back to where we had always remained. This was not the beginning of a global recession. This was not the end to benign policies of central banks to financial markets. So markets have recovered, and actually the appetite for riskier asset classes, such especially emerging market debt and equity, has quite healthily returned.
Zeno, good morning to you. It's Naira in London. Great to have you with us on the show. The top story we're covering this morning is that Deutsche Bank and KOBEs Bank are in talks over a merger. Of course, a lot of hurdles before we get to that actually happening. Could it set off more consolidation in European banking within countries, in Switzerland perhaps? Well,
I think Switzerland is in many dimensions a special case, also in this one, but I think European consolidation of banks will have to continue. Number of reasons. European Central Bank U-turn, so interest rates will be lower for longer. That is bad for net interest income. The regulatory purgatory seems not to be over for banks. And third, there is not much visibility on growing revenues, so cost-cutting out of synergies and consolidation is one of the only ways forward. And obviously most European markets are much more heavily overbanked than Switzerland, so expect more consolidation throughout Europe.
What does that mean for the business, Zeno, the landscape of Europe, if this merger goes through? Do you think the ECB will agree to it easily? Or could there be assets for you to pick up?
I can't speak for the internal decision-making processes of the ECB, but I would expect, given the strong backing from political sources in Germany, that the deal would go through if the two lenders agree.
Zeno, you were talking a little bit about cuts in relation to other banks in Europe. I want to ask you a little bit about the fact that across Europe, banks are beginning to make hiring cuts, especially in investment banking. What's your long-term view on hiring plans for Vontobel?
Yeah, I mean, we have always tried to run a very steady ship through the different market cycles, so we have not always been very close to exuberance when markets were well. We try to be less pessimistic if markets become a little bit more sideways. So in areas where we are committed, in areas that make part of our core markets, we will continue to add talent when it makes sense and when we have the opportunity. Obviously, in sideways markets, our cost conscious is high as well.
Zeno, time is against us, but very briefly, the record fine that UBS has had slapped upon them, the implications for the rest of the banks in your home country, do you think it's a big issue?
I don't know. We have, as a company, not be exposed in any material way to the French market. I think it's also not a Swiss issue. I think this is just another sign of the regulatory purgatory that is going on for banks in general. And we have just seen across the globe, across different markets, across different issues, that there is an inflation in fines.